All right, welcome everybody to episode 5 of Reptiles and Cocktails. Welcome everybody. And we have a special guest today. This is going to be a fun one personally for me because this is a person that I actually follow, and that is Maine from Maine Morph Creations. So I get to pick his brain today and learn so much more about where he is in his breeding project, learn so much more about ball pythons and his experience with them. And then I know he has other reptiles too. So we're going to talk about that as well. So I am going to be bringing him on now. Let's go. Welcome, welcome. Come on in.
What's going
All
on? What's
right.
going on?
Hello, hello, hello.
How you
Thank
doing?
you. I'm good. Thank you so much for just flipping your entire schedule to accommodate mine. I actually had no intentions on going to Hamburg yesterday at all. So I really appreciate you doing that and being flexible in
No
that
problem.
way. So I have a lot of questions. So I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know if you can look at. I never checked. So I want to. I'll check for myself. But if you look at YouTube analytics, I have to be probably one of your first 20 subscribers. And this is before I even knew that you were in the group. So that's
Okay.
the crazy thing. Like a lot of times you're following
Hmm.
specifically on YouTube and stuff like that, and you don't even realize this is someone that you're actually communicating with anyway, because the
Right.
names don't always go together.
Right.
Like if someone saw Nicole Tisdale, they wouldn't equate that with Lady Tiz Exotic. So yeah. So welcome, welcome, Mike. What's up, K Paso Familia? Melody, Melody, hey Melody, welcome, welcome. Melody had her first clutch of bearded dragons.
Sweet.
Yeah, yeah, like she had for a newbie a pretty good year. So great for her. So let me go into my very first question. My
Okay.
very first question would be, how old were you when you first got into reptiles?
When I first got into so my very first reptile that I can recall was actually a turtle that I was a little kid. I was probably 4 or 5, something like that. It was a turtle that my dad had got. I guess we found it, whatever. It was a little box turtle, and he had it. And I remember we used to keep it outside, like right on the side in this little, I don't even know what you call the container that we had it in, but like a little makeshift container. We just kept it right there, and that was the first. And then as time went on, we got other things. I had like a bird, and a few years back when I got into my adulthood, I used to like aquariums and stuff, and so I had got a red-eared slider.
Okay.
And my experiment, which I didn't know what I knew, now, because back then, I was a teenager, so they didn't have all of the YouTubes and all of the stuff that we got now. So I had to actually learn trial by error. So I had gotten like a couple of Oscars and stuff like that, and ended up putting the turtle in the tank with some of the fish. And well, needless to say, I learned that
Right.
that wasn't the wisest decision. But
Right. Well, look, so it's the assumption, right? And it's the things that you
right,
learn because you assume that because they live in the same waters that wouldn't happen as children. And I remember making a lot of mistakes like
right,
that. But it's just how we, even as humans, we're smart. We know not to jump in a fire, right? So they tend to live together or survive off of survival instinct.
right,
And then we get them and we say, well, they live in the same water. Let's put them in there together. This gotta work. This
yeah.
must work.
It worked, just not the way I thought it would. But see, but as I kept on, I ended up learning that as long as I kept them fed the way they should have been, that they could coexist. But I would need a bigger space than I had, because I think at the time I only had like I want to say like a 30-gallon tank or something like that.
Okay.
Um, and so I still had the little floating little log thing from the climb up on and all that, but it just wasn't enough space for them to coexist people. And then when I'd feed them, they go crazy, and he just get to seeing fish flakes and bite everything. Anything that had a fin was liable to get it.
So, when did you realize that reptiles, or specifically snakes, were for you in this case? Because you went breeding snakes. So, what was it that about snakes that made you say, "I want to recreate this species"?
I don't know. I think so I got an uncle who had been breeding for a few years, and so I go to his house, you know what I'm saying? And I used to so growing up, I grew up in the church and all that, and the way we're taught, which I always tell people now, is most of the time a lot of the things that we feel like we have fears of or phobias of are really learned behaviors.
Yeah.
And so I've got an uncle that has snakes, and he had been having them for years. And so for a while, because we were taught, the serpent and all that. I'm like, oh, it's not a good creature, it's an evil creature, blah blah blah. But then as I got older and I kind of got into theology and stuff of that nature, and I learned, a little Hebrew and was able to read in the original language, I understood that the word that was used, that is translated as serpent in English, actually has alternate meanings. And through my studies, I feel personally like those meanings are a little more befitting for that
Mm-hmm.
passage as far as what went on. So it kind of, then I think about the story of like, well, the Most High told Moses to throw the rod down, it became a serpent, and then he picked it up out of the tail, and then it became, a rod again. And I'm like, if it was evil, I don't necessarily see in a perfect and good God, using something evil to get his point across in that manner. So I just kind of, went away and start dealing with them, handling them more, and just got more familiar with them. And with anything else, the more that you deal with them and the more that you handle them, the more you get acclimated with them, the fears and all of that kind of subside. And so I think probably about 3 years ago, me and my little brother, actually, we kind of were coming in to do this together, and
Mm-hmm.
I kept going with it. And he had started a new career at the time, and so just with his job and everything going on with him, he wasn't able to continue on it. So I just kept pushing on, and I mean, I'm here where I am today.
That's what's up. So, not to go too far on the spiritual side, but I do like to point out that topic because, most of us was
Hmm.
raised with
Right,
look, some type of higher being, whether it was
right,
Christ, whether it was Muhammad,
right.
it was something.
Amen. Yeah.
And the fortunate thing is that I think that also some of us were wise enough even then, and I was grateful that not to have parents who forced religion on us,
Right,
because I think it made us seek it more deeper. So one of the things that I share with people is, to your point, that they're still here
right,
and they survived the ark, right?
right,
God destroyed cities and people, turned people into pillar of salt
right,
because of evil, or what was perceived as evil at that time. But snakes and reptiles are still here. But
right.
one of the things that in my studies, and I share this all the time, I discovered this, not discovered this, but I read this like 15 years ago, and it was a awakening moment for me, that
Hmm.
snakes are actually a sign of healing. They
Right,
are, that the skin shedding is biblical. It's in the
right,
Bible.
right.
Renew life, birth. And then
Hmm.
I will always share with people, because I like to. I mean, I don't run away from that dialogue, because you have to have people to see things from a different perspective.
Right.
What's up, Gershon? So you want to definitely want people to see things from a different perspective. And one of the things that I said is that we have to remember that in the Garden of Eden, it was the devil disguised as the snake.
Right.
So God chose the snake because it was attractive, it was desirable.
Right.
Uh, so therefore, we forget that the snake was not the serpent. I mean, the snake was the serpent, but the devil was the devil.
Right. Right.
He
Yeah.
chose the body of a snake.
Right.
No different than the wrong spirits can choose the body of us. So, with that being said, I like to have that dialogue, not just on that topic, but on other topics.
Right.
I think that in order to make people not fear what we love is to educate them, because everything
Exactly.
fear is of ignorance.
Right.
I grew up with a dad from the South, so guns was all around the house, but he also taught us to use them or use them, and safety of them at a very young
Right.
age. And once
Right.
I got past that fear because of education,
Exactly.
understanding, because I used to think you walk past a gun and it just go off. I was one of them kids. But I didn't want to be
Yeah.
nowhere near it. and it changed that fear. So definitely, I get that.
Hmm.
Let's see. All right, so this was a really good one for me. So I watched the video. You talked about your uncle. I know one of your YouTube videos.
Hmm.
Your uncle had your first clutch. You wasn't prepared for, right?
Right. So my
Okay.
first clutch, so you know how you go through everything, you do all the reading, the study, and the research, but it's nothing like OJT. So until so like my very first clutch, I was like, man, I was expecting, but I wasn't prepared for it. So now
Right.
I know what I'm looking for when I'm looking for ovulations. I understand tail sunk and all of that. So my very first clutch, I was definitely not prepared for it. So what happened was that I had an incubator, had the incubator running. It was holding temps, but it was an older type of thermostat that I was using. So to keep it had heat spikes. They were dropping and raising and all of that. And then I wasn't 100% sure on how long the snakes had been laid.
Gotcha.
I mean, the eggs had been laid. So when I first saw her, and then I came back, I was like, man, 8 eggs. So I tried to count them and everything, but within a few days, they went bad. So at first, I was like, well, man, you know, um, I thought it was me. Man, I did something wrong. Maybe I didn't have the right mixture of
The make a
I used the
life.
perlite. Yeah, I used perlite. So
Okay.
I was like, maybe I didn't have the right mixture, the water to perlite mixture. Um, maybe I didn't have them sitting right on the diffuser panel. I didn't know what it was. It was so many things that I was thinking about. Like, man, how did I do this? And so I had talked to other people, who have obviously had experience. You know what I'm saying, with breeding and stuff. And a lot of people told me more than likely, because it was a first time mom and first time male. A lot of times that people say you get some of the best genetics, but then also the eggs may not fully develop, because they're first timer. So it could be something off with the animal that was carrying. So all of them went bad. And so I'm
Okay.
like, man, well, what did I do wrong? So it was like literally, say it was a Saturday where they were laid, by Tuesday, Wednesday, they were done for. And I'm like, man, and I've had another incident where the it was so hot in the room where the incubator was, not my personal clutch, but someone else's. The eggs still hatched though. The eggs, they didn't go all bad. They hatched really early. Now the whole clutch didn't make it, but still they were able to go. So just through talking to other people, they were like, man, it could have just been something with the eggs themselves, because for them to go bad, within 2-3 days that quick, and there was no other moisture, nothing that was added. Because I did the same process for those that I do with all the rest. They just all 8 of them went bad. So I was bummed.
Yeah, that's so what do you think happened? You never just kind of dialed into that?
I so I thought it was incubator issues.
Mhm.
So I stopped using that incubator and I used another one. And
Okay.
I've had pretty good success with the other one I'm using, but I mean, even in that, every egg has not made it. Um it's the nature of the beast. You win some, you lose some, but I try to make sure that I candle, make sure that I got them sitting the right way. I like to put stuff, I used to would use the diffuser panel. I found personally I have better success just putting them directly into the substrate. Because I use 1-to-1 mixture. So if I
Okay.
use 200 grams of perlite, then I'm gonna use 200 grams of water, or maybe use 205 grams of water, just a little bit more to keep them right there. And I kind of try to dig them in a little bit, and I've had the best success rate going that route than sitting them on diffuser panels. But I'm not gonna tell anybody to not use them, because I've also had sex with diffuser. I've also had success with the diffuser panels as well. So I just personally like sitting them in the substrate. It just works for me, but I can do either way.
Got you. Yes, I see people do it different ways. I guess that's what works best for you. Or maybe that's also like I feel like with substrate, it all depends on where you live, which
Right.
state, the
Yeah,
humidity in different areas and things
definitely.
like that. So Mike had a question. Mike actually has a question that's very similar to mine. So I'm gonna kind of make it start with Mike's question. How
Okay.
many clutches have you produced now? Also, how many are you expecting this year?
Who we? So I've got babies from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I've got babies right here from 6 clutches, I believe. 6 different clutches, if I'm not mistaken. Currently, I've produced about, I think, 11 or 12, something
Okay.
like that. And I've actually had a pretty successful. I actually just got rid of a few more babies. I just got rid of one of the last. I got one more that I was letting go. I've got one more that I haven't gotten rid of yet, that I haven't sold yet. But everything else that I was letting go is gone. So that was definitely a good successful season in my eyes. As far as this season, oh Lord. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I've got about 14 that are here. Actually, 15.
Okay.
Yeah, so 15 here, and then I got a couple of collaborations that I'm doing. One with Cornet Constrictors, and another one with my boy G over at Sick Witted Ball Pythons. We doing a couple of collabs. So yeah,
Are
this
any
season,
of those collabs his ultramels that he
yes,
won't let go? Okay,
yes,
so wait a minute. Remember this. Call me
got you,
first.
got you.
He does
Yeah,
not. He has some nice looking ultramels, and I
yeah,
am not buying an ultramel from anybody until he produce one that he will sell to me.
got you. He might he might got one. He got a couple. I think that he might be let. Well, they not visual though. He got some hits.
No,
He got some hits though.
I want his visuals, and
Okay, yeah,
I always ask about them. He not for sale. They not for
yeah.
sale, but
He got some nice stuff coming this season.
okay.
If everything goes the way that it should, he got some fire clutches coming this season. Ultramel stuff is gonna be super dope.
Got you.
So yeah, it's gonna be super dope.
So, with that being said, how many years have you been breeding, and do you think that you are turning profit on your investment yet? Is there a return on your investment yet?
So I've been breeding now. This is 3 years, but I would say yes and no. And the reason I say that is because that's my boy John. What up, Jo? That's my boy from Ball Out. What up? My bad. Hey, what's going on, everybody in the
Yep,
comments? I don't want
yep.
nobody to feel left out. I just happened to see that one
Go
pop up.
ahead, take a moment. No, take a moment. Take a moment. Take a
So
moment and see who's in the comments and give
let's
you a
see
little
here.
shout out. Yep, go
Yeah,
right on.
what's going on, everybody?
Yep.
Shout out Mike, my boy. I saw GP is in here. Who else we got up in here? Let me see if I can work this raggedy computer. So what up, GP? What up, Mike? Melody. Again, congrats on your beardy clutch. I might need to talk to you. No, I don't need no more lizards. I don't need no more, so I'm not even gonna do that to myself. But man, thank y'all for jumping in, joining. Appreciate y'all taking time out y'all Sunday evening where y'all might be watching some basketball or something or eating
Right.
some dinner or something. Thank y'all for jumping in and kicking it with us for a minute. So we're gonna try to make this as fun as possible. Hope
That's
y'all
right.
enjoy.
Because this is not our regular schedule program, but
Yeah,
we
definitely.
here.
We gonna try to regularly schedule it though. We gonna try to make Lady T's hours gonna be regularly scheduled.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
But yeah, so what was I talking about? I done lost my train of thought. You would ask me
Your
something else. Oh yeah. So 3 years. Yeah.
mm-hmm,
So I would say yes and no. And the reason I say that is because I feel like, especially this past season,
mm-hmm.
while I was able to make some money back, I'm still at a place where I feel like I was still doing heavy investing into the project, into the hobby, and into myself per se. So while I haven't seen what would necessarily some consider profit, I believe that I've been probably, because of like a lot of the stuff that I've been able to purchase has been off of what I've produced, been able to make back. And so now I can take this and invest it into whether it be racks, supplies,
Yep.
or other animals, that like other genetics and things of that nature, for various projects that I want to get into. I'm able to take that money and invest it back into the snake, so that basically my ultimate goal is for the business to be self-sustaining, where I'm not pulling out of my pocket, from
Yep.
where I'm working for to purchase animals and things. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm definitely on pace for it.
Awesome. And gives a good idea of a good target because I think that's probably about the pace that it would be for most people if you're trying
Right.
to actually be, um, I don't want to say successful, but really make quality animals.
Right.
Mike said, I got like three uh, G clutches on my. Oh,
Yeah.
are
Look,
they
I'm gonna tell
on
you.
Mel? Mike, let me send you my, let me send you my
Yeah. Hey, look, let me tell you, G so bad, right? That he be having animals, right, that he'll forget he done did stuff with and mess around and be like, man, I forgot that they was even on. Like he'll go in there and he'll be checking tells something feeding, and he'll be like, man, this girl just ovulated. I don't even remember what I paired to her. I'll be like, bro. So he got man, G, I like quietly. I think out of a lot of the people that I associate with in the industry, I think quietly between G
Mhm.
and and Keisha at Splash Pack and TB over at Texas Bell Exotics, as far as people that are low key, like I think they've had probably some this past season was awesome for them three. Like those are three people that I feel like they had some really, really like successful seasons, but are so quiet and low key that you wouldn't even know that they got the fire that they got over there.
I certainly hope. I mean, I see Keisha on lives, but I hope she's real quiet. And I'm like
Yeah.
loud. If y'all think I'm loud on here in person, and especially if I'm drinking, I'm a riot. I'm real loud, so I'll scare like a quiet person. But I would like to meet her in person, so I hope she's at Tinley in March. Hey there, pretty girl. Hi, treasure. Uh, Sean said, "Look at my homie about to feed some snakes." Talking about
Yeah.
Mike. See, Gershon, go. Let see. I need to get first on the list. Everybody waiting on these Archimels. Well, Gershon, naturally, I will let you go first. I won't hold you hostage in the room no way to get my Archimel, but I want one of those. I definitely
Yeah.
do.
Definitely. See, and that's another thing too that I've started looking at. Like, obviously as you get more into it. So like from my first season to where I am now,
Mhm.
um, one of my biggest, I guess you can say, one of my biggest, I guess, desires, like if I'm looking at an animal, is a lot of people be like, oh, well, this one's cheaper. That like I'm more so, not to say that money ain't an issue, but the quality of the genetics, it don't matter where you get them from. If you get quality genetics, then that's really like, in my perspective, the key to your business or your brand or whatever you're trying to do, because quality genetics will produce quality animals. I've seen, certain animals, just single codon, single gene codons that sometimes you'll think, well, man, is this, a Mojave yellow belly or such and such with the, because certain genes are enhancer genes, but it's
Right.
just the quality of the genetics, will make an animal look that much better.
Totally
I mean,
different. Yep.
yeah, so that for me has been more so one of my focuses as far as when I'm getting into especially with even recessive projects. The quality of the genetics of the recessive gene that you have makes a big difference, because you can get, a desert ghost from this person, a desert ghost from that person. They both DG, and one of them will look like, lights out, and the other one be like, man, that's you sure that's DG? It'll be kind of questionable. So I think that as you're building your foundation, quality has to be what you're looking for, as opposed to quantity, and as opposed to, trying to get, the cheapest possible. Like, invest in quality genetics from quality producers and quality breeders, so that way, you'll have a place where you can trace your lineage back. Well, hey, look, this came from such and such, because some people, there are certain names in the business, literally you mention their name and people gonna buy it just because,
Yep.
oh yeah, this was from a orange dream female from Ozzy. Once
Yep.
you say that, people will instantly jump on it just because they know it come from Ozzy, and you can prove that. So, I'm not saying I want to be an Ozzy or a Kabilk or nothing, but I'd like when people think of Maine's Morph Creations, they think quality
Quality.
genetics. You know what I'm saying? That's my biggest thing.
Yeah, so my strategy was I definitely wanted some of the known breeders. I mean, even with my pet animals,
Hmm.
they're from the reputable breeders of
Right.
that particular species. But I wanted to do, big breeders. Definitely, people like you and Gershon and Reggie, people who,
Yeah.
are one day going to be those big breeders.
Amen.
So when that happens, that loyalty is still there. So when Gershon
Right.
actually creates his $40,000 python, he might sell it to me for 20.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah,
you
for
build
sure.
relationships now. Oh, it happens, even when you think about like Justin and Ozzy, I'm sure there's snake swaps that happen
Yeah, definitely.
on a
Yeah,
whole
definitely.
nother
Most
level
definitely.
that we can't even imagine someone calling
Right.
up and say, hey, come get this, orange dream, leopard yellow pod, yellow belly
Yeah.
pod, like it's just like you just can't even imagine it. So, all right, so I want to do this is a surprise, and I've never done this on any of my podcasts.
Uh-oh.
I'm a big kid. So what I'm going to do right now is bring my favorite video that you did
Okay.
from YouTube, a picture of it on the screen, and tell me about this moment. I'm going to share what the moment brought to me, but tell me if you can see it.
Oh, me and my daughter.
Yes, actually, let me see if I can get it bigger for you.
Okay.
Let's see, let's see, let's see. Yeah, I probably can.
Let me see. I might
There
can.
we go. Can you
Oh
see it?
yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Man, I
So
remember that.
I love this video. I love this video. So tell me about that moment.
So so that was actually, man, it was really a trip. So I had got her a snake like for her birthday back in 2020, I think it was. She said she wanted a snake, she'd come over. She knew I was breeding and all that,
Mm-hmm.
I'd let her touch the snakes, handle them and all that. And so she was saying she wanted one. She kept saying, Dad, I want a snake. You need to have a baby snake for me. So I ended up getting a female het pied female.
Okay.
Um it was a pastel head pod, and so I was like, well, you know what? For her birthday, I'll surprise her. So I went out, man, was looking around. I had found the tank. I had to get the whole setup, did all of this stuff, and so I went and got it for her. And so when I gave her the snake. She was so excited, happy, and all of that. So um, as time went on, when I started my YouTube channel last year, she was like, "Hey, I saw you on the TV." Because I had sent her mom the little link, you know what I'm saying, so she could see it. She was like, "Hey, Daddy, I saw you on the TV." And so I'm like, "You did?" And I wasn't even thinking YouTube. I'm like,
Right.
I'm sitting here like, what happened? What was I on TV for? And so she was like, "Yeah, you with the snakes and da 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 da." So then I was like, oh, okay, so she was watching the video. So um, actually just had that clutch. And so I had picked the kids up from school or whatnot, and so they were hanging out with me that day. And so I was actually gonna do a video, and she was like, "Well, Daddy, I think you should let me be in it with you." And I was like, "All right, cool." And so we just did it. And for me, it felt good to see that she had an interest in something that I have a passion for.
Yeah. Well, I thought what was really good is that that moment you taught her something that I didn't. I had ball pythons for this year made 31 plus years.
Mhm.
I didn't learn, and I still can't do it, but I didn't even know what popping was
Oh yeah,
until a year ago. So, because I always knew what my animal was, or assumed that whatever the breeder told me it was, that's what it
right,
was.
right.
And so I learned that a year ago, and I'm like, how old is she? Like
Yeah,
5, 6,
yeah.
7?
She actually should be. Oh Lord, how old is? What year is this? She'll be 9
2022.
this year. She'll be 9 this
Okay.
year.
So yes, I'm like, wow, like she's getting that experience now. So it kind of reminds me of, I think it was actually Precious when she talks about a lot of her experience came from growing up around her father who actually owned reptiles.
Hmm.
Like those moments like that. See, my dad loved me to death. My dad would do anything for me. I had experiences as a young child that some women would never have. But my daddy didn't do snakes. He jumped
Right.
off his own boat because the
Mm.
snake was on the boat.
Some
So,
people like that. Like my mom hates them. She can't stand them, but she's more tolerable of the snakes than
mhm.
the rats. If like if I even mention rats, she gonna lose it. She goes ballistic. And my mom is kind of, I call her a hypochondriac. But she'll sit there and like she'll start thinking about it, and she'll take herself to this whole other place where she'll be like, oh my god, just the fact that I know that it just drives her crazy. So I do understand that a lot of people are. It's crazy how many people you find that have this, like, I guess you could say, kind of phobia
Mhm.
of snakes. Is really crazy.
Well, that's what it is. They'll say they don't like them. What it really is that you fear them because you have no reason not to like this thing who doesn't do nothing to you, really.
Right.
Ball Out Constrictor said, "Who you get the snake from?"
So that's the snake. That's who I got the head pipe for my daughter from. So
Okay.
shout out Jo. That's my boy. If y'all see him, he calls himself Black Jesus. I don't know where he. I don't know what enticed him to decide to do that. He got dreads is about the only thing, but yeah, that's my boy. He good dude, and yeah, that's where I got him from. He had him, and we chopped it up, and he was like, "Well, man, I got this head pie female, and of course, more than likely later on this year that female will be breeding because I don't feed her like I feed mine because it's a pet, but I was like, well, I need to have a baby for him, so we'll see if I can get her bred later on this season or something."
Okay. All right. So I have another photo, and tell me about this one. Oh, gotta get it bigger for. Hold on.
Okay.
Let me put it under the overlay. There you go.
Yeah, so I definitely remember that. So that was my first time visiting NARBC. That was last year.
Okay.
And man, it was such an awesome time. So I had been talking to, what I'm saying, to Antoine from High Deserts. We had spoken, I don't know how many times, had personal phone numbers, all that, but I had actually got to meet him in person at that event. So that was awesome, what I'm saying? And just the way, so like the way we chopped over the phone and stuff, like when we
Mm-hmm.
saw each other in person, it was like, hey, what's up, bro? It wasn't like all awkward and standoffish and weird, like, let me get to know you. It was like, all right, this is my dude. Like, so now I got an actual face. We in the same present. We gonna still be who he was, and it was just love. And he's honestly one of the people that has helped me a lot. Throughout this. What I'm saying, like, he's called me with some bonehead things I've done. Like when I did my first video, matter of fact, and I
Okay.
posted it. He called me and he's like, "Hey, bonehead, turn the phone around." I was like, "Oh yeah, all right. I guess I should." So he's taught me a lot regarding editing. Him, GP, and Rashad helped me the most regarding learning how to edit my videos. As far as putting up content, they've been, probably three of the most influential as far as, man, you should drop this video, you should drop that video, and I can't forget my boy Reese's Pythons either, him as well. And
Okay.
then the guy in red is my homeboy Sean, T5 boas. So majority of the stuff that I know about boa constrictors, morph wise and all that, I've learned from him. And he's the guy that's right here from the city with me, here in San Antonio. And I mean, this dude has some awesome animals. Like,
Got you.
I'm talking about like some stuff that he got some stuff that'll really blow you away. Like he got some animals, stuff that he's on his own created. Like he's got a lot of world first. He's working on some projects right now that I ain't gonna put all the stuff out there, but he's working on some stuff right now that's definitely gonna shake up the board game as far as some of the stuff he's doing with different localities.
Got you.
He's got a Nicaraguan project that he's working that, man, I cannot wait to see, it come to full fruition with the vision that he's giving me. So those are just two of the guys that I really rock with in this industry. Like I say, Sean is right here, and coach, it was just a good time, meeting him, what I'm saying, and then to get the cosign from him that I've received, that in itself felt good. Like, all right, look, I'm Antoine from High Desert. I am who I am. I'm known by these people, and I'll vouch for this dude right here as far as what he's doing in the ball python business. And I feel like things like that, to me, that means a lot because your reputation is on the line. You know what I'm saying? You send
Yep.
somebody somewhere, and it's like, oh, well, who is this dude? So
So I think that he is contributing a lot to deposit a lot into people. I think there's a lot of that. We're making it contagious. We're making
yeah,
it normal to support each other.
right.
Um, so I think that is very important. So right here, I think it was there.
Hmm.
Can you see that?
I remember that.
Which clutch is this? Do you recall?
So those are actually so those are just different animals. So that's my black pastel female that is actually with sick with it ball pythons right now. The
Okay, so I
bottom
guess
one,
my question would have been the first snake, the one right in the front. And I'm assuming that it's a. I'm not even going to try. Tell me what the snake is. The
the
yellow
one
or
on
the black one.
the bottom one.
Yep.
So that is a leopard pastel orange ghost.
I was going to say pastel. Okay.
Yeah, and so I'm waiting to see because I've done a lot of like looking up. So he's leopard pastel orange ghost, but I've been waiting to see what his babies look like because I bred him,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously the clutch didn't make it. But it it so I'm not sure if he's a pastel or a super pastel because his head is so blushed out. And I understand that the hypo influence can kind of change it a lot. So I'm waiting really this season really to see if he's just pastel leopard orange ghost or if he's super pastel. I bought him as pastel, but every other animal that I've looked up that has those same genetics don't quite look like that. So I'm guessing it's possible that he may be a super.
Got you. And so you also are breeding your own rat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So that is something I actually talked to my husband about it because my thing is I don't want
Mhm.
to smell it, but that is something that I would love to do. Can you still see me? Hold on.
Yeah. No, I can see you right
Okay.
here on the left.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like my screen looks weird. My screen looks weird to me. Um. So tell me, how are you? What are you using? Are you using racks or tubs to breed yours?
So I use. So what I do is I use we got the racks. We got them in tubs. Inside the racks. And then what we've recently started trying to do is we're working on maternal uh maternal breeding. So basically
Okay.
what we're gonna do now is so we are doing just regular colony breeding and we would have some success, and then it'd be like up and down. But I think from what I've heard and just from the research I've done, I think that maternal breeding, from what I've gathered at least, produces better litters as far as larger litter sizes.
Okay.
And it also gives you a little more, I don't want to use the term in this manner, but I mean it's the best one I could think of, but it gives you, I guess, more production time out of the females. There we go. Because it pulls them out of the environment where they're having to compete for resources and all that and deal with everything else around, where they can just sit there, they can have their own area to eat, their own area
Okay.
for their water, and just actually nurse the babies and not worry about the males trying to jump back on them or dealing with the other females that are inside the same tub with them. So we're gonna give that a go and see how much better production we get with that. But yeah, I do definitely understand what you mean with the smell, because man, sometimes it can be atrocious.
Yeah. So do you have? Are you Do you think taking care of them is time consuming as well? Like, do you think it adds additional time to the whole
Definitely.
process? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Because see, it takes a level of commitment to do it and be successful. Because if you're not committed to it, then what you'll end up doing is basically you'll just be spinning your wheels. You'll be buying animals, purchasing rats and things of that nature. And what you'll have is that you're not keeping them up, so they won't be producing because the husbandry is off and things of that nature. So it takes a whole nother commitment in of itself to ensure that you're being successful in trying to breed the rats. And like with my collection size, I've got, I don't know, I had just counted the other day. I've got 60 some odd animals. So obviously it'd be a hefty bill trying to go to a pet store every week.
Right. I get it. I just think I'd rather pay the hefty bill for right now at least. I think
Right.
definitely I want to rethink it probably when I get further into breeding because what I'm noticing is that with well not this has always been the case. Some hatchlings will eat frozen thawed right away, and some of
Right.
them will prefer live for a while. That's always
Right.
been the case. But now that I have way more hatchlings than I would have had,
Right.
at once, I can see that even needing at some point just 10, I
Right.
might
Right.
rather want to have them right here than riding. I have to drive like 45 minutes
Oh
to
my.
get live from
So
where I
so
live.
let me ask this. Have you had an experience yet where where a rat got out while you were in
No,
transit? Oh yeah, so you ain't
no.
experienced the fun stuff yet.
No. So what I do is I take like a actual tub, put in the
Hmm.
tub, block the tub, and sit the rats next to me. Cause I,
Okay.
I I gotta keep an eye on them. Cause that would just first of all, I'm not looking for them. I'm assuming you getting out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be out there looking for you. So no, I have not experienced that.
Oh yeah.
Even when typically for me, the biggest live rat I have to feed is probably like a wing to a small, because
Okay.
by then even the ones that's tough will start to take frozen thawed. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. I went through that some years back, and I'll never forget it, man. I had went to a pet store and they put them in this little small little box. Actually, no, I'm telling the story. That instant, I actually they put them in a bag. They had put them inside a bag and double bagged it. And what happened was I was literally on the way straight to go feed them. By the
Mm-hmm.
time I got to the house, one was gone. So it was two in there, one was gone. And man, that thing gave me the blues for about 4 days because it was like we were playing hide and seek. I'd leave, go in the house, and I'd come to the car to get something or do something, get ready to go somewhere, and I'd see him. I'm jumping in the car trying to pounce on him to grab him. He done took off and ran up under my dashboard or then ran under the seat somewhere. And finally one day, um, it was crazy. I found him one day in my back seat. I was getting ready to go to work, and I had opened my back door, and he was just sitting right there. And I was like, "Oh, I gotta get him." I snatched him up so quick and straight to the tub he went. He had to go.
Yeah, so a rat loose in the house and tarantula loose in the house might be the two things that make me book a hotel.
Oh yeah, nah, not me.
like
Yeah,
like and
yeah,
I know a snake loose is nothing, but those
yeah.
two I'm booking a hotel.
Man, I done had we done had ASFs running around loose in here that done chewed out. And not even realize it. And go up there because at one time I had them up in the room upstairs before we had got the shed out in the back. I had them up in one of my spare rooms, and man, came in one day, and ASFs they chew 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 chew. So one day we had come in, and I went in the room to check them, and I'm doing regular routine, and I look, and I'm like, I saw a head sticking out. I'm like, what the hell am I seeing this rat head like this? Went over there and they had chewed a hole through the front of the tub. And so that was definitely fun. I spent about a week and a half to 2 weeks fighting ASFs trying to catch them all to get them back, get them put back up. Found them all. So that was a good thing. But man, that was something different.
Yeah, nope, I'm not doing it. Twofold question. What is your
Okay.
favorite snake in your collection, and what is your favorite snake to breed?
Mm, that's a tough question. My favorite snake in my collection. That's a good one. I'm gonna have to say, genetic wise, probably my DG.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm gonna say probably my DG genetic wise. Either my DG or my VPI Xanthic G stripe, one of those two.
okay,
But just my favorite, like relationship wise, my favorite snake, I'm gonna probably say is gonna be either Mellow. Oh, you know what? He's not here, so yeah, he's gone too. He's on the breed alone as well.
okay.
So either Mellow, or honestly, Cersei, just because we had a love hate. Oh, you know what? No, I'm gonna show. I'm lying. I'm gonna show you. Actually, I know who it
Okay.
is. This girl right here. Her, Maremi.
Okay.
So this girl right here is one of my faves. So this was the first snake that bit me, and I'm talking about she got me good one day. I was just holding her, and she smelled my hand and then just bit me, just out of nowhere, just came over and bit me right on this finger. And so for a while I was like, man, I don't know about her. I used to be real iffy, but after a while,
Hmm.
it was whatever. What's up, girl? But yeah, so
Oh,
um, her and Cersei are probably two of my favorites. But Mello was my first, what I considered somewhat exotic looking before I knew what I know now. Um, he was
right. Before you knew there was so
right,
many
right. He
different.
was yellow. I'm like, oh man, he yellow, da 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 da. And then so when I bought him, the dude was like, yeah, man, well, he's what do you call him? He called him a pat no, he called him I think he said a pastel kingpin is what he called him or something like that. And so, I was like, well, what is that? I was looked up the gene. I'm like, okay, so it's lesser pinstripe, and then it got pastel. So now I learned obviously the term was an emperor pin. But then when he had his first clutch, which today I can laugh about it
Okay.
because I bought a 3 gene snake with what I thought was, but when I look at him, I can clearly see he's got inchy in him because of his head stamp.
Okay.
But at the time when dude, when I bought him from the dude, he was like, oh yeah, it's just this, whatever. And so all this time I was just like, oh yeah, emperor pen, emperor pen, emperor pen. He had his first, when I raised him up and he had his first litter, his first clutch. I'm like, man, I got inchies in this. So then I look at him and I'm like, dude, how all this time I ain't paid attention? You got inchie. Like inchie has that very distinct head pattern, that head stamp on it. So I'm like, you definitely got inchie, and I ain't paid attention the whole time. But that's what we get wrapped up with just taking a breeder at their word, or where you get them from. Oh, this is that.
Yep. Well, and that's things that you learn because, like I said, even as far as being a male and a female, like I think Melody told the story of when she thought she had a one sex and she put them in to breed them, and all she heard was some thumping, and
Mhm.
realized that she had put two boys together or two girls. I think it was two boys together, and the boys was like, that's not what we
Yeah.
doing here. So I still can't pop, but I'm good at probing. I got a nice probe kit. It got about 10 different size probes in it. So I don't know. I feel like I'm hurting the snake. And I had someone to try to show me how to do it, and he was just like, roll it.
Mhm.
And he can do it, and just was so easy. And then I
Yeah.
just feel like I'm killing the poor little snake. So,
It's a process. Once you kind of get your like for me, the hardest part at first was like the hand placement, because when I learned how to do it, I was, at first I watched all the YouTube videos trying to figure it. I'm like, man, this is just, it's not working. Just watching YouTube, I couldn't get it.
right.
So once I got it in person while I watched, I think my biggest issue at first was just hand placement, as far as trying to put my hands the right way, to what feels comfortable, so where you can be kind of firm, but not necessarily as forceful, to try to hurt them. But and once you learn, like you said, like the kind of roll, basically that's what you do, is kind of roll it up and they'll just pop right out. So,
Yeah, it's definitely something that I'll have to practice over and over again. And I think I'm gonna practice probably more when I have my first clutch. I don't want to practice on any of the animals that I have now.
okay.
Or maybe if I don't want to wish that, but like say, God forbid something happen and I lose an animal in a clutch, I would rather practice on something that I can't hurt.
Yeah. I think I found it a little easier. I think for me, it was a little easier trying to get it on because babies are so little. Hey, what's up, Shot? It's my boy from 212.
Yep.
If y'all ain't following, make sure y'all follow him and follow Nicole as well.
Yep. I think I got Rashad coming on soon, hopefully.
I'll definitely be tuned in. That's my bro right there.
Yeah.
But I found it easiest for me. I was doing it like on a sub-adult male
Okay.
when I was trying to get it, because the peens are big enough where you can actually see, but then with adults, as they get older, they get more control over it, I guess. So sometimes you'll be trying to pop them and they won't come out. So I found it when I learned how to do it, it was on like a sub-adult male. It was probably about like a 400 gram, like 300, 400 gram male.
Okay.
Where I was able to just keep going, and I kind of was able to perfect it. And matter of fact, I got sprayed when I actually learned how to
Well, you
do
did.
it.
Well, I was going to say you also got sprayed on the video too.
Yeah, that seems to happen to me often. Getting sprayed, getting bit, that it becomes kind of just a normal thing. It's like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. I get in a minute.
All right. So that
Oh Lord.
killer. Let's talk about it.
Oh Lord.
So first of all, let me tell you a funny story. I first I admire anybody who have been in any form of the service, whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, National Guard, Reserve, whatever. Okay. So my military story is this. In 12th grade, me and five of my close friends were
Mhm.
going to go into the Marines.
Okay.
We wanted to go though, just so they can pay for school. We didn't really want to be soldiers. We
Right.
wanted to go on the GI Bill. So it was right before, probably a couple weeks before graduating or that final council meeting. We had to meet our recruiter, and they
Mhm.
went to tell us the story of how the 6 weeks of basic training was going to go.
Oh yeah.
Needless to say, none of us ever made it to the military.
Yeah,
We
that
didn't
basic
make the
training is something
we
different.
didn't make it past. Look, we didn't make it past the thought of basic training. Okay.
Hmm.
One of the women had given an example of being at war, and she used the term jiggers. And I was like, "What is jiggers?" And she explained to me as like little bugs in the woods or
Yeah.
something.
Jiggers,
So
yeah.
she was saying, one of my friends had to ask, well, what happened, when you have feminine needs that you have, and you at
Right.
war, and the solutions was nothing that we were willing to do. So we never made it to the military. So hats off to all our service people because that takes true heart. But tell me about your experience in the military.
Um. So I enjoyed it honestly. I had a 5-year contract. Went in. I was a search and rescue swimmer. And one of the things I dealt with, back then was like, oh, black people don't swim. So, I used to kind of get teased a little bit, but then I was kind of a little bit of a hothead. So it kind of called me some
Okay.
like, man, stop playing with me. Like, I'm not them black people. I'm me. Like, bro, like quit trying to play with me on that race court. I don't rock like that. Like, we could make it a thing if you want to. So I kind of had some couple of skirmishes and bumped my head bumped a couple heads with some people in there. But all in all, man, it was a really good experience. Got to see different things, different parts of the world, parts of the country. Um, I actually didn't learn about accents really. Like I never even realized I even had one until I went to the military. And then, because I mean, when you come up somewhere, everybody talk a certain way, so
Right.
it don't sound like nothing. You was just regular, like, oh yeah, I'm just regular talk. So when I went there and like, I had like people that were from like Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, California, East Coast, from Jersey and New York, and it's like even so, like to me, East Coast all sounded the same until I started getting older, and then you could hear like the differences from like people that's like from Philly, from Jersey, from New York, and then like Baltimore, like Maryland area, that got a whole nother accent of its own. So it's East Coast, but then the way y'all say like tear and deer and Tuesday and all that, I'll be like, boy, they done threw a whole letter in this word.
We don't hear it. It's so funny. And I haven't lived in Baltimore in years. But I lived in the DC area, not too far away
Yeah.
for most of the time. And I spent a couple years in Ohio.
Hmm.
But people, as long as I lived away from Baltimore, still hear
Yeah.
it and say you're from Baltimore, and I'm
Yep.
like, I don't hear it. It's
Yeah.
it's
You
really
definitely hear it.
weird.
You say do, you say two, you say Tuesday, any of that stuff is definitely popping up. You might not live in Baltimore, but it's definitely living you.
Oh, Gershon I say practice on every size animal when learning to pop. So pressure to use.
That's a very
So
good.
you'll know what pressure to use.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
Yeah, that's definitely I agree with that. I definitely agree. I just think for me when I was trying, um it just worked. That was where I learned. But I mean, I do all my animals now.
Kim said, "Don't come from Baltimore like
We talk regularly too. What's going on, Q man? I'm just saying, y'all, I feel you, I ain't gonna do all that, I ain't mean to, do anything offensive. I'm just saying.
So, what state are you in? Texas?
Yes, ma'am.
What is the weather like today?
Today, well, today it was
Hmm.
actually nice out, but
Okay.
yesterday was cold as hell.
Yeah.
See, we got bipolar weather down here. Like last week, no, for real. Like, so down here, you gotta dress like 4 different ways per day. So like you gotta come out with like one pants leg on, and the other side gotta be shorts, and then a long sleeve shirt on the left side with a jacket on, and then like a wife beat on the right, because you're gonna experience all 4 seasons in a day messing around here.
Got you.
It was like this morning, it was like in the 30s, and by the time the afternoon came, I think we got up to like almost the 60s or something like that. Let me see, because I was outside with just like a shirt like this. Like right now it's 54, but this morning it was in the 30s, and this
Okay.
afternoon the sun was shining. I had my AC on riding, so it was warmed up. It melted all I had some little white chocolate Ghirardellis that I had bought from Walmart. Yeah, they all melted. So
All right. Well, I have two more questions.
Okay.
This one, so you know, a lot is going on into the reptile world, and a lot of
Hmm.
restrictions on what pets we can have, and some concerns about what we are going to be able to transport across state lines going forward.
Right.
What concerns do that bring to you in regards to breeding ball pythons? I mean, you're in Texas, that's a pretty big state.
Right.
But it's also, because it's a pretty big state and it's also a very reptile friendly state, a lot of breeders there.
Right.
What are your concerns?
My concerns is just that basically they're gonna take away, I guess for lack of a better word, they're gonna take away something that has actually probably saved some people's lives.
Yep.
Um, I understand, certain things like I understand, like in Florida, they had the situation with certain animals where they've considered them invasive species and things of that nature. But I also believe that nature has a way of performing checks and balances. Um, you know, ball pythons are not necessarily invasive in any capacity. Even if they get loose, like I know, like in Hawaii, you're not allowed to have no snakes, period. But for me, I feel like it's gonna hurt the industry as a whole because it'll now minimize, I guess, even though we still might be able to communicate, it kind of changes the dynamic of a lot of relationships because now, um, like I look forward to going to some of the bigger meets, like NARBC, I plan to make it to Tinley. I plan to make it to Daytona. Maybe one of these days I hear a lot about this Hamburg stuff, so I'm gonna end up trying to get up there at some point. And
Hamburg is okay.
I hear y'all talk about a lot that's in that area. So I just find, it might be an interesting thing. So I'd like to get up there one day. But I just feel like basically what's going on is y'all are taking something. A lot of people that are the powers that be are kind of dibbling and dabbling in areas that are what I would call uncharted territories for them. Because how much research have you actually looked into realizing or figuring out, okay, so say these animals did, just get out into the wild, how much havoc could they really possibly wreak on, in the type of environment that we're in? They're not necessarily very aggressive animals. They're not, they don't have the temperament of a lot of other animals that would cause injury, so they wouldn't be as injurious to anybody. I mean, you get stung by wasps and ain't nobody talking about get rid of all the bees,
Right.
and I
That's
feel like,
right.
a bee sting is probably
More
equivalent of the
dangerous than
closest,
a snake bite.
right? And so who do you know that's going to get bit by a snake and have an allergic reaction?
Right.
They don't, at least as far as with ball pythons.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I feel like it's one of those things that if they ain't capitalizing on it, then they don't care about it.
So you actually kind of spoke right into my second question. My second question was, don't you feel like now it's more important for not mainly reptile breeders, but for all people who own reptiles to attend the NARBC?
Right.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I think that for me, I mean, honestly, for me, I mean, I stopped over the years thinking that it was that important. But also over those years, I wasn't thinking from a business side either,
Right.
or a networking side. Like I was
Right.
good with knowing the people that I know. But I will say that this last 2 years has opened up a whole new side of reptile ownership for me.
Right.
Exploring outside of my box, and I think it's important that we all do that. I love to see the companionship that people like Gershon and Antoine,
Yeah.
Pat from Soul Exotics, um, is like just everybody just showing love, regardless of what walk of life you from, and
Right.
banding together to make a positive impact into the world. And I know a lot of that is driven from a lot of the attacks we've experienced in the last 2 years. But for me, I feel that we're finally trying to turn a corner where, for those who do love this, not just for financial reasons, but in the bigger perspective of understanding what reptiles do for us as a people and what we do for reptiles. I mean, the
Right.
reality of it is that one of the reasons why I wanted the reticulated pythons that I have is because if they ever went extinct and it was 15, 20 years from now, I would have that snake,
Right.
you know. So we're actually preserving life for them too, because the reality of it is that they don't live as long in the wild. So
Right.
I, definitely love what we do. I'm loving it more now than ever. I have met some most incredible people, the support that we get, like even reaching out to you, like how, your response. I was telling Melanie this, and I've been, as going through this process of doing this podcast and having it unique to be what I wanted to be for, my guests. I have reached out to people who you would think are big people,
Hmm.
from whatever means of perspective that you may see, who've been very responsive and want to be involved in the podcast and
Right.
want to be present. And I think that is another sign that we all are coming on one accord in some degree. So, what would be
Definitely.
that if you were looking at your life 10 years from now
Hmm.
in regards to reptile breeding? What would it be?
Man.
Where would you want to be? What and because I didn't talk a lot about your lizards, and I know you have lizards, so I do want to talk a tad bit about them because I'm a lizard
Definitely.
lover too. But
Definitely.
when it comes very specific to ball python breeding, what would it be?
Um, Still having fun. I would say that would probably be number one of my number one I guess things is to still be able to enjoy the business, to still be excited about it. Um, because like right now, I come in, I check these tubs, and I'm excited. I'm looking for ovulations and things of that nature. So there's an excitement that you get, and then to kind of be, I guess, anxious, the anxiety that you get, like, man, I wonder what I'm gonna hit, and then having specific projects and things that you want. So just to still be feeling, have that anxious and anxiety, that joyfulness that you get out of, creating and producing and then caring for these animals. And then like for me, I'm now, at a place where now I've got animals that I've produced that will, next season be breeding, or later this season be breeding. So just to be able to see that, okay, I've worked and walked my way up to this place to now see animals that I've produced other places where other people are like, hey man, look, I got this from Maine's over at Maine's Morph Creations, and I got this girl X amount of years ago, and look, based on this female I got from him or this male I got from him, we've sired or laid these clutches and have created these awesome animals. Like that's kind of more so it for me. Of course, any business, it has to have a financial aspect to it, but I never got into this necessarily for, oh, I'm going to make money to do this.
Yeah.
This was something that was a hobby, a passion, and it just grew to where I went from, two snakes to too many.
How many do you think you have?
um, well, I had just counted. I think I was around like 70, but I literally over this weekend sold like six snakes.
Okay.
Like between yesterday and today, I sold like six snakes. So I think I'm about 60-ish.
And how many lizards?
I got two lizards right now. I've
Okay.
got the
One is
Savannah
a
monitor.
table, right?
Yeah, that's my girl Babs. I should have brought her out, but I wasn't thinking about it. I should have had her out.
Yeah.
And
I watch videos of her. I've seen her in videos and pictures
yeah,
on Instagram.
yeah, I love her to death. She's so chill. I've actually got a bigger enclosure that I need to put them in, but maybe probably doing some moving here soon, so I ain't put them in it yet until I get all that situated and figure out exactly where I want to set it up. But I got a big old enclosure in there for her and the Savannah monitor.
Cool. Well, that's it. Do you have any questions? Does anyone else have any questions in the comments before we go?
So I got something for you, I guess.
Sure, shoot.
So I know you do the retics. I know you got some boas. What got you into the bigger animals?
So, it goes back being a child. So you know how you just
Hmm.
watching TV and you see anacondas and you see, well, I didn't know what reticulated pythons were,
Right.
but you saw the big pythons,
Hmm.
on TV and animal channels and stuff like that. I actually would have gotten retics probably 15 years ago if
Hmm.
I did not have the experience that I had with my very first I mean, if I had had my experience with the retic that I have, my very first retic that I got now.
Okay.
So 15 years ago, had I got my golden child, my Motley golden child son, and she was, because out of all of my retics, she was my first. She's the only one that was challenging, and not in a horrible way. I
Right.
got her at about 4 months, and she was defensive, not striking defensive, but she gave you the looks like I
Right.
will. And so you had to really I had she was the first one I had to really work to earn that trust. Then after her, it seemed like every retic after that was just easy. Like it was totally opposite from her. So I always liked the big snakes. I thought that they were very, very intriguing, but I was afraid that of all the things that I heard that they would
Right.
kill me. All of the
Yeah.
things,
They
and not
sizing you up when
from
they looking and all that.
no, not even that stuff. Not from the people who are not owning reptiles, but people who own reptiles. So
Mm.
if you notice, I thrive on my channel to show the positive of reticulated pythons.
Hmm.
And I do that because people who owned them before me, like I think I always say it's almost like it was a ego trip, made them seem that they were, and I get that, some of the wild caught would have been
Yeah,
tough.
definitely.
But when you hear Bob Clark talk about him bringing over his first wild caughts and how he started to breed and things like that, he doesn't make it a scary experience.
Right.
But
Right.
there were a lot of people who did, and so I wasn't sure if a retic was for me. But once I got I got the one. The first I got the retic was the first big snake. The berm was the second, and then after that, I decided that the retic was more for me than the berm, and that's that was all you wrote. I
Yeah.
love my retics. Like I love them.
So I'm
Jesus.
I'm I'm starting to grow an affinity for them. Matter of fact, the guy in that picture up there, Sean. So they breed retics. So he
Okay.
calls himself Boa King, but they've got retics. His son Gabe. So shout out to T5Os. His son Gabriel is a retic lover. So I've handled retics. I go over there and they've got a female named Tuesday. She's 18 feet,
Okay.
a monster, and her attitude, she's a bit, nippy. So my mindset is like, like I like boas, you know what I'm saying? I feel like I want something that, because it's me that's dealing with them, I need something that I'll be able to handle myself, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna be able to wrestle no 18-foot dang on reticulated python myself. I just, and so my mindset is I like to keep something to where I'll be able to still, handle it. If it bites me or gets me, I'm still able to by myself get it off me and still safely get it put away. And then treat myself, as opposed to, if it gets a hold of me, hell, I might not make it, Um,
Yeah.
but I've realized as I deal with retics more so, that
Hmm.
they're actually pretty intelligent creatures.
Very,
And
very. And
so it kind of makes me, like, as I watch how they move and stuff, it makes me want one more, but I just don't right now. I don't got the space for it for sure. But I do
yeah,
believe that probably down the line, I could probably go for like a dwarf or something. I know it's gonna cost a pretty penny, but I could definitely go for one. Maybe even like a 10, 11 foot male or something. I
hmm
could probably rock with something like that. But I've been contemplating it.
well, I would say it all starts from. That's why I get all of mine as babies because
Hmm.
now I believe that everybody needs to be cautious. So I'm not going to say that it's safe to ever handle them alone, but I can handle all of them alone
Right.
because I don't even have to touch them. So I've trained my retics. So once they get to about a year and a half, the ones that's a year and a half older, if you ever look, I don't have to drag them out. I open the door. They tell me if they want to come out right away, not by striking. If they want to come out, they're going
They're
to come
gonna come
out.
out. Right.
If they don't want to come out, they ain't going to move. They'll look at me. They might even kind of coast around the sides and just kind of watch me. but they're not going to come out unless they want to come out.
Right.
They go back on their own. My retics, when they out, they play. After they done, they find their way back to their enclosures. I don't have to really hoist them up often. The only time I have to pick them up is they love to cuddle. They
Yeah.
love to rap and play around and go on top of your head and all that kind of stuff. And that's where three of them are at their size now, where it's just too much for me. It's not, well, not too much. I can have them all up here and things like that. But let's say if something was to happen, it would be too much for me to get them off on my own. So normally my
Right.
son is right in the other room or something like that. But I handle them a lot on my own. But I think it's all in starting from a baby. I handle my retics more than any of the other animals in here. I probably spend as much time with them that I have to do with like the Asian water monitor
Okay.
to keep them socialized. But they're all good. And that's why I love them. I've never had any bad experiences. Even recently in Christmas, I got bit by the purple sunfire, but that was my fault.
Mhm.
She was behind me on my son, and I accidentally hit her face, and she bit me right on my finger. But as soon as she realized that it was me she bit, she went back like nothing ever happened. Just
Yeah.
kept on moving around, like I'm sorry, and kept on moving. So,
Right. Yeah. I'm curious about them. So how many?
yeah.
So how many? I know you got boas as well, right?
Yep. So I have no, 8 retics now because I bought one yesterday. I bought my first dwarf yesterday.
Okay.
8 retics, 2 berms, 3 boas, counting the ball pythons that's here now and not the other 10 that's on its way. I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 13 ball pythons, a corn snake, tarantulas, of course, the 2 tegus, the Asian water monitor, 2 turtles, and a green tree python.
Goodness. Yeah. You got a whole. Yeah. You got a zoo. You definitely got the
Yeah, and
zoo.
I didn't even add in the dogs, but yeah. So
Yeah.
I have, but I would say that the in the house, as far as the ones that I like to deal with the most, the retics. Yeah, Rashad, I love my retics too. It was no going back for me as far as me going back to ball pythons is because I decided that I did not want to breed retics. Initially, when I bought my retics, like when I bought the tiger pod and I bought the golden child, I thought that I would have wanted to breed them. What I
Hmm.
am sure of is that I don't. And that's because in reality, it's enough retic breeders. I don't care what anybody say. If you have 4 clutches, it's not like ball pythons.
Right.
It's people all over the world dying for the next ball python. Um, One of my concerns that I have about retics becoming popular is that people want them because it looks cool
It's
to have
cool.
them.
Yeah.
So what I would say, if you walk in my house, not one retic older than 6 months old or outside a quarantine stage is in a tub.
Right.
And ball pythons, I'm with it all day. That is, first of all, it's not. Most people don't realize, even though they're big, my retics are always climbing. Always.
Right.
If I take them out there, they're going up high. They're not going low. They might go
Right.
low to get to where they want to go up high. So my concern is that a lot of people are getting them, rehoming them. I don't think that they're an animal, and I get when you're breeding them, that people rehome them. But if you're not breeding them, they become very attached.
Right.
There are certain snakes in here that prefer my son over me, the Motley Golden Child son. If she doesn't want to be bothered, she just don't want to be bothered if I open the door. If my son comes 5 minutes later, even if she didn't want to be bothered, she wants to be with him.
Right.
And I think that it's important for people to understand that when you get to the larger snakes, you have to be able to give them the best life you can. Like, I don't
Right.
feel like none of us can give them the whole force they need.
Right.
But if you're going to have them, these are definitely not animals that you should be keeping in tub. I was sharing with somebody earlier. The day I buy my retic is the day that I order my enclosure. So I have a local guy who can produce them for me like in 30 days.
Hmm.
But if he doesn't have some of the bigger ones, like if I know if I'm gonna have a tiger, anything with tiger blood, I like for them to have at least 3 feet high too
Right.
in the enclosure. And if he can't make them, then Cryptic Creations, I would have to order them from them. And
Hmm.
everywhere right now because of COVID, it's going to
COVID,
take
yeah, take
longer.
a while.
Yeah, so people need they have to realize that. Then I hear people saying, "I'm gonna get them. I'm gonna make them." Like Rashad said, at least they're gonna have 30 eggs. At
Definitely,
least,
I've seen
at
that.
least.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
they actually can produce 50
60
plus
eggs.
clutches.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Who are you selling them to? Well, I know
right,
for me right here in the DMV, who am I selling 60 snakes to that you are telling that this snake is going to be anywhere from 15 to 20 feet?
right, right. So you telling me that this snake needs its own room in my house?
Right.
Is he
Right.
gonna pay rent?
And then the food,
Yeah,
it costs yesterday alone, and all I did was buy food for the retakes, and normally it'll last me for a couple months, but it was $400. So you got to budget in the food for them, and not in
right.
everything else in between, medically and everything like that. So
Yep.
I think that the unfortunate thing about them becoming more visible is that people are not express it. And like even when I bought my first retake, the person I bought it from was Jim Jolly. He
Hmm.
asked questions. Like it wasn't just let me just sell this girl who knows nothing about retake or retake. He also to this day provides education of anything that I might need to know about them. He still he follows his snakes. So
Right.
he see how I take care of him. He always tell me he's so proud of me and how great of a job I've done and things like that. So that's always positive. But I think that for most people, this is not the snake for you.
Right.
And this is I always tell if you're struggling paycheck to paycheck, it's
Yeah.
definitely not
It
the
ain't
snake
for
for
you.
you.
Yeah. It ain't
Yeah,
for you.
you
Yeah.
can't feed this a dollar rat. It ain't
Right.
happening, Captain.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. I feel you.
So who did you get yours from, Rashawn? Who did you get your retake from? Yeah, good breeders are gonna they want to know what type of enclosure you have for
Right.
them. They want to know, what type of how do you understand the cost of the upgrade, what type of upgrade, because you can't just get any regular PVC.
Right.
They need to be in nicely made PVCs.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
watched my retakes on camera. I shared in the group. If you don't have a good lock or good glass, like thick glass, they
Yeah. They
out of
getting
there.
out of there.
They
Yeah.
out of there.
Yep.
And you can think that they not. I've watched her even go exactly where the lock is. So she's smart enough to understand this is where you unlock it and let me try to do what you do to get this open. And when that
Right.
fails, she's pushing to trying to get the glass to budge. So good thing is the weight of the glass is resistant. But at some point, you got to keep in mind, and that's one of the things the guy who builds mine closures say. You always want to get at minimum 3/4 glass because if you get half-inch glass, they breaking it
They'll break
at some
that.
point. It
Yeah.
might not be today, but at 15, 20 feet, they
Yeah.
shattering it to get out. Oh, 7 meter serpent. Okay, yeah, I think any good retic breeder would be asking you those questions. I think that even with ball pythons, I was watching one of Precious videos, and she
Hmm.
actually went and helped one of her people who purchased her snakes to set up a proper setup for them. Like I think that is a
Yeah.
responsibility
I
that
did
we,
see that.
breeders have. Yeah. Hey
What's
Bosa.
going on, Bosa?
Yeah,
Yeah. That's definitely a good
Bosa be
thing.
giving mad love to everybody on TikTok and Instagram.
I might have to make sure I'm following.
Yeah, he definitely shares the love and I appreciate it.
Let me
Yep.
see.
Any other questions in the comments or for me from
Um,
you?
I think that might have been it. Just so what's your favorite retic morph? Like,
Two. And I own
okay,
both of them. So when I
okay,
got into retics, what I did first was price and wrote down the top five that I wanted. And I purchased them in the
okay,
order of what I thought at that moment would be my favorite. So my very first one was the Motley Golden Child Sun, and of course I wanted her because I had saw the Golden Child that Jay Brewer always shows on Instagram and stuff like that. And she was the first pretty black snake that I had seen, and then it was a girl and used to be in a group who also had a golden child, but hers was super, but it was a good one, not that wasn't it was thriving. Um, so I decided that I wanted something with a golden child combo, and then I saw the Motley Golden Child son that Randy Wright had, and Randy is actually probably the first person who gave me visual hands-on experience on handling retics. And I got the Motley Golden Child son because I wanted her. Then my second one was the Tiger Pod, had albino. And of course, the Tiger Pod is at that point was one of the prettiest ones.
Okay.
Um, then the Motley Mochino, then the cow. So when I got the
Okay.
cow, everything after the cow was just whatever I want,
Right.
anything after that. But that those were probably my top four of the top five, and then the Motley Tiger had purple was my number five. And but I have everything I wanted. I have.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool beans.
Yep.
Well, this was definitely fun. Definitely
Yeah,
a pleasure.
yes. And definitely, I mean, I tell everybody, I'm new into the breeding, so thank you for being responsive. So I'll have questions,
Definitely.
especially when I actually think that I have my Ivory Pastel is, well, she's definitely building follicles. I have the
Mm-hmm.
sonogram, so she's definitely went from, and it was kind of weird. So
Mm-hmm.
she went from where I felt like I couldn't find follicles. It
Mm-hmm.
could have been just I was using the sonogram wrong. But then one day you can clearly see them, and they was only about 8 centimeters.
Okay.
But now when we measured her yesterday, she's actually about 16 millimeters. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that she continues.
Mm-hmm. Have you started pairing her yet?
Oh yeah, I started
Okay.
paying her at 7.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I
Yeah, I
was
was gonna
throwing them
say
in
yeah.
there.
Yeah, pair. And then if she gets to about 30 millimeters, then she pretty much, gonna go. If you make
Okay.
sure you get at about 30 millimeters and you catch that, she's pretty much gonna go. Once they get to about that size, they usually ain't gonna reabsorb. About
Okay.
30, 33 millimeters, they pretty much it's pretty much a for sure thing.
Yeah, and she's not eating, but she's getting big. Like I was showing
Yeah.
my husband earlier, I'm like, look at her. Like she was sitting there and she just was just a big old. I'm like, oh, she gets big. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
measure her again right before we go to Tinley. Speaking of,
Yeah.
are you going to Tinley?
So I'm not gonna make this one.
Okay,
But later on in the year I do plan to go. I'm gonna try to make
October.
that one for sure. I'm actually gonna go ahead and start up everything now and try to get my stuff so far out now, have my time off for work and all that, because I definitely want to make it there. Um
Well, I'm definitely going to make it. I'm going to Tinley in March. I can't go. I never will be able to go into October because I can't say my favorite, but my grandson, who is like my son, his
mhm.
birthday is in October. So I don't normally travel around the time of his birthday, but I'm definitely
Okay.
going to go to Daytona in August. So I'll be in March and Daytona in August for sure. So Q said first, he said, I love these lives. I get to see more about people's personalities. Yes,
Definitely.
I love them too. I love them too. And that's why, I don't want to just target, the big names, definitely I'm going to have some of them on. I think we are the ones that make it look normal for people. And I think
Right.
it's important that they see us.
Definitely.
And then he said, I'll be at Tinley later this year as well, so see you there. Yep. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. Thank you so much, Maine, for coming on.
Definitely. Definitely.
Thanks for your quick response. I'm just loving all the love, like, because I'm reaching out to people that I otherwise didn't talk to on a daily basis, but like to realize that you even knew who I was. That was a good thing because I'm like I'm not just one of your YouTubers.
Yeah, no, I
That you.
watched a couple of your videos. That's how I knew you went to the big stuff and all that. Like that's how I
Okay.
was able to find out. Cause like I said, I'm interested. I don't know how soon it'll be, but I'm probably gonna end up getting a retic because I don't know why I just want one now. Either that or like well, I got a couple boas, so I'm trying to debate if I want to just go more, a few more boas and go that
Mhm.
way, or if but I feel like I want at least like one retic that ain't gonna get 80 feet. If I
But
get
let me
one that's
tell you this: my boas are harder to handle than my retics. Retics, you can get to move. Like, so you know how when a boa grabs something, they don't let go?
Yeah,
It's how
it's a
hard
wrap.
it, yeah, it's a wrap.
Yeah,
Retics, you can get to move. All you got to do is
yeah,
touch them in a certain place and they'll move forward. And so for me, it's harder for me to handle my boas or get them in and out. If they grab onto something, then it is my retics any day.
yeah,
And I say that to anybody. Boas are, it's a different kind of strong. They might not get
yeah.
as big,
But
but
them things are
their
strong.
muscle strength is something. Especially
Definitely.
my Motley Jungle. Oh my God, she is so strong.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah,
don't
my
even bother to
boys.
take her out if my son is not around.
Yeah, like my boy, my female boy, I see the difference, like, even in they like they food responses.
Mhm.
Like, she hits so hard that she pops the tub off, the top of the lid off, and I'm like,
Mhm.
my goodness, like, angry little animal. But other than that, she's pretty chill. Then I got another one that's she's a demon child here. She's so dang mean, but she's still young. But she mean as hell. But I gotta just handle her a lot more to
Yep.
try to get out of that. But I have noticed the difference, which is why I like to watch certain people, and like I be watching your videos and stuff. Not, but I've noticed, like, to me, boas are kind of, they can be chill, but they're a little more just nippy. Whereas like
I I I
retics,
I, I say that too. Yep.
yeah, but like retics to me are more like, they just big, like kind of like puppy dogs. If you get them like tame, you handle them. That's what as far as what I've seen from people that are real
Yep.
keepers, as opposed to people that just have them.
So
So
I
yeah.
say boas are intelligent,
Uh-huh.
but they go to Howard. Retics go to Yale or
Got you.
Harvard.
Got you.
And they are always thinking. So because they always thinking, they know better. Like as soon as
Right.
they know that it's not. Well, even some of mine, I don't have to use a hook with them. They know if I open on a certain side, they're not eating, and so they don't never show a food response because that's just how they're tamed. But with the age they are with me, they get it. Like they get when I'm eating and when I'm not, and I can have food out feeding others and
Right.
they'll know the difference. So when people make it seem like, and I used to think that too, that I couldn't have food out around them. You can have a rabbit sitting right there in the other room. Just don't have the rabbit sitting right on the table where you ready to put them on
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
But you can have it in the other room, and they don't. Their food response is still turned off unless they see it.
Appreciate it. Definitely
Yeah,
appreciate it.
and he'll definitely share the love on his TikTok. And I actually like that little seeing that video when it pop up both to see who you highlight in every day. So I just think that's dope. But yep, so that's all I have. I appreciate all of y'all hanging out with me.
Definitely,
And
definitely.
man, we'll definitely be talking more. Definitely will have you back, probably, maybe, hopefully. When I have a
Yeah,
clutch, I do something where I get all y'all guys together
for
and
sure.
girls, because let me stop, guys and girls, because I keep forgetting we got Keisha and Precious too, and
Yeah.
a whole lot of others that I want to make sure that I share that experience with. So let's talk real fast. Coming up next week is going to be Vaughn Guiding. Finally, Vaughn is actually the person who. Thank you, Gershon. Hey, Tim. Tim, you're gonna have to watch the playback. You're a little late, but that's all right. That's all right. But Vaughn is the one who actually created my logo. So,
Okay.
and she's also a reptile owner. So she'll be on next week. Someone that I admire. Again, I love bringing on people that I can relate to and people that I find so interesting that these hours turns into hour and a half. I did it again. Like it just never makes it an hour. I'm just gonna start telling people I'm gonna need an hour and a half of your time because the first hour just sweeps past. But yeah, she's on next week, and then after that, I believe we have. Oh, I'm sorry. No, Derek is on next week. Derek Hare is on next week. I'm sorry, Derek. Derek is on next week. Vaughn is on the 12th, and then on the 19th in Tinley, Precious and I will be doing my live from
Oh, that's
Tinley. I'm
nice.
so excited about that. Like she is. It's so much that I just want to share with her because we don't talk a lot,
Okay.
like personally. but there's so much that she had inspired in me last year, and I want to be able to share that with her, and I want to do it with her, face to face, and kind of think it would
Yeah,
be dope for us to be together and connect intently. That girl power
yeah,
going on.
most definitely. I feel you. I feel it.
And then on the 26th, once after Tinley, I will have Melvin McDuffie on, and he's a big boa guy. He breeds boa, so definitely
Definitely got a tune on that one.
yes, I'll keep y'all up in tune with all that's upcoming. But I appreciate you guys who rock with us every single time. Thank you so much, Gershon. Appreciate it. Um, Rashad, appreciate it. Can't wait to have you
Most definitely.
on. Bosa going to rewatch from the beginning. Thank you, Bosa. It was
Appreciate it,
really a
man.
good show, but I knew it would be.
I'm glad to be
All
a part
right.
of it.
Yes, thank you. And I'll definitely have you back. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Peace out, everybody. Everybody have a good night.
See y'all later.
Bye bye.
Man, that was awesome.